Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, the Codex. My name is Jason and today I'm going to be reading from Romans chapter 8 verse 18. Romans 8 verse 18. Reading from the New King James Bible. And it says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." And again I read this. "For I consider, I think upon, that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." You know, we're going to get hard times in life. We're going to get suffering. Christianity is not a place where you're exempt from suffering, but more likely, you could probably get more suffering because we're going to get persecution, especially those in foreign countries that are suffering persecution under governments, by other religions and so forth. We in countries like the UK and America and places like that, we don't really know what suffering's like. We don't, to be fair. We don't know what persecution's like. People reject what we say. People may mock us, laugh at us, swear at us. They may even, attack us. But in comparison, we all got to be honest, it's not compared to what the believers in China, Korea and Iran and places like that. That's proper suffering. But we suffer in our own way. Okay, so not to belittle the sufferings that we suffer. We can suffer in our life sickness, disease, illnesses, financial difficulties, poverty, suffer mental health and suffer relationships, being in broken relationships and broken families. So although we're not being persecuted like in other countries, we do still suffer. We'll still suffer as a Christian. And I want to get that clear, that I'm not saying that we've got it easy as Christians and we don't suffer, because we do. You suffer, I suffer, we all suffer in one way or another. And it is sometimes, the common thing that atheists will say is like, well, if there's a God, why doesn't he stop all this? And why doesn't he do something about this? And why is it letting it happen? Etc, etc. Now there's a number of answers to that, in which I've answered in some other videos, so I won't delve into that. If you want to know more information on that subject, then leave a comment and I will tell you in the comments and fill you in on that. But for now, I just want to cover what it says in the verses there, that the suffering of this present time is not to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. Now, what I'm getting from that verse is that one day we're going to be with the Lord. Okay, one day we're going to leave this earth and we're going to be with Christ, and we're going to be with him in his new kingdom, new heavens and new earth, new Jerusalem. And that is a place free from sickness and disease and suffering and pain and torment and brokenness, mental health problems. It is absolutely beyond our imagination what that's going to be like. And that gives us hope. This is why, as Christians, we have hope in the next life, in the afterlife. Okay? And even people who are not Christians, who believe in an afterlife, again, have their own hope of an afterlife that is better. The Egyptians had their afterlife in the field of reeds, where everything was like utopia. There's all these different religions that will give you their versions of an afterlife. And in some cases, it's a bit like, well, that's a bit unfair on some people and a great boon to others, without mentioning names of that religion. But in general, the general idea of an afterlife is you meet loved ones and you have happy ever after, so forth. But sticking to the Bible, which is what we need to do about the afterlife, is that when we suffer these things on earth, it makes us look forward to heaven. And what we need to understand is, one verse that really helped me was where Jesus said to the disciples, "I'm the God of Abraham, I'm the God of Isaac, I'm the God of Jacob." For God is not the God of the dead, God is the God of the living. And when we say, oh, that person's died, we should really keep it in the context of their physical body has died. Okay? We really need to realise that it's just the body that has died, and that God is not surrounded by dead people, he's surrounded by living people. Heaven is full of living people. There is no death there. There is no dead people there. The only dead people there are on earth. When we die on earth. We're not dead in the next life, we're alive. So God is a God of the living, not of the dead. And we should take comfort in that. And so if we've lost loved ones, family, friends, etc., etc., or even strangers that we've sort of read about and thought, that's really horrible, you know. When we think of the next life that they're in, a life free from pain and suffering and poverty and all the rest of it, we should be thinking, wow, that's great. They are truly in the best place. They really are in the best place. And the more that we study the Bible, the more that we renew our mind with the Word of God, the more it becomes a reality to us. When we surround ourselves with the news and the views and the opinions of the world and the false sciences and so forth, and once you're dead like a dog, we're just animals or whatever, and that's the end of that. There's nothing to look forward to in the next life. It's oblivion, it's annihilation, you don't exist anymore. We need to just bypass all them things, just sort of say, right, that's what they're saying, that is not my future, okay? And that is not the end of the story. We remember Jesus saying, when you see all these things come to pass, regarding the end times, lift up your head, for your redemption draws nigh. And so, as I said in another video, we can actually take comfort and get pleasure and excitement out of thinking, do you know something? God is going to wrap this all up. He's wrapping it all up. It's all going to be stopped. It's all going to be sorted out. All these atheists that have been bleating on about, oh, why don't God do anything? Well, he's going to do something. But the way he's going to do it is not going to be the way that they wanted it. And they need to really get right with God, because otherwise they're going to be on the receiving end of, I haven't even got the words for it, but just read the book of Revelation stuff. Anyway, so with what we suffer now, if we don't sort of think, if we think we can live as Christians, yeah, like some branches of the church believe, like certain charismatic churches believe that we can, if we have enough faith, we can live without sickness, without disease, without financial difficulty, we can live in an invincible life that is free from these things if we have enough faith. And that's part of the Word of Faith movement message that I was once in many, many years ago. And it was appealing. It was appealing because it made me feel at the time that, wow, if anything goes wrong in my life, all I have to do is quote scripture and have faith, and the circumstances will miraculously arrange themselves to suit me. And as time goes on, you realise that isn't the case, and that sometimes God works through tragedy. He works for us when we're sick and we're down. He doesn't make us sick, he doesn't give us diseases, but sometimes he can work out his will while we're going through it, okay? And sometimes valuable lessons to be learned. We can learn empathy, compassion on other people. We can learn faith as well, you know? And so, therefore, when we go through these difficult times, we need to remember this verse, Romans 8:18, that the sufferings of this present world are nothing compared to what we're going to experience in the next life. It's going to be great. So, in your suffering right now, if you're going through something right now, sickness, disease, mental health problems, financial difficulties, relationship, the list goes on. Just take time and think, do you know something? This isn't going to be forever. This is going to be the rest of my mortal days. And once that's over, I'm not going to be dead. I'm going to be very much alive. My spirit and my soul is going to be alive. And one day, when the Lord returns, I'm going to have my body as well. But in heaven, I won't need my body anyway, so I'm not worried about that. And it's a great appreciation. Like when I was growing up, I went without and didn't have much money. We was a poor family, and so therefore because we was poor, we learned to appreciate what we had. And then when I come into being an adult and got a job and everything else, when I could afford things that I couldn't when I was a child or as a poor family, I was like, wow, this is great. I really do appreciate this now. If I hadn't have been through that poverty, if I hadn't have been through, how can you appreciate health if you haven't been through sickness? How can you appreciate wealth if you haven't been through poverty? You know, how can you appreciate partnership if you haven't been lonely? So these are things that we need to consider and think, right, I've got to change my perspective on this suffering. Look up Bible verses. Look up Bible verses on suffering, yeah? Google it. You know, there's so many verses on suffering, and just look for them, look at it from God's perspective, and then begin to speak to ourselves and say to God in prayer, God, this suffering is only for present time. It's not going to last. Help me while I'm going through this difficulty to appreciate what I've got. And then by your grace and by your will, if you heal me in this situation, or if you want to do this or do that, when it happens, I'll be even more in an even more thankful place and a place of appreciation. That makes sense? Good. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.